Hiya Sean, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
When I say how you doing, how are you after COVID? How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. Mine was just extended because I couldn't test clear. I had a couple of days of sort of flu feeling, and that was it. So the rest of it's just been isolating, and waiting for the chance for your body to clear the sort of contagious side of it.
And how has it affected, or how has your absence affected preparations for this match? That as it stands, it's set to go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's been tough, working with the staff from a distance, calling into meetings and the like, but not getting to see the players and work with them on, up close and personal has been different. It's one of the challenges of it. I think we're all going through it in varying walks of life, particularly in football, and just trying to work around it the best we can, prep the best we can. As you know, applications gone in. We're actually slightly worse off than we were against or the possible game that's just been called off because Charlie Taylor's took a knock, so he's getting that scan today. So, we're at such a stretched moment in time that it's very difficult all round.
Are you able, Sean, to give us an idea of what you've actually got at your disposal for this game?
Well, so far to training today, there was 10 recognised first-team players, so that's where we're at today.
And if you are sort of forced to play the match, how difficult is that going to be to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, look, we know, we now know over the last few weeks how clear the Premier League have been with us about the whys and wherefores and the level that it needs to get to. So we put the application in good faith from the situation as it is. It's only 3 days on, of course, from a game that's just been called off. We'll see what comes of that, but we've worked really hard to get games on when we've been at stretch, and we've just gone too far below the threshold, and now it's just an improbable sort of situation. If there was a reason why they said that we'd have to carry on with this game, then we'd prepare properly and we'd take on the challenge as we always do.
I suppose though, Sean, on the flip side of things, if the match is postponed, in terms of what you've played, you're going to be 4 less than your direct rivals in Norwich and Newcastle, and that'll bring about its own problem. Yeah,
it can't be helped. I mean, look, the situation is to bring true competitive element to a league. That's why the rules are there. You need to put out a team that they feel can be a competitive team. And when you get to a point that you don't feel you can, and the league see that you can't, then that has to be looked at. And the health and welfare, which everyone talks about. I mean, the hardest thing of all, don't forget, and to give you a view of the COVID situation is, because everyone has to isolate, they can't train, and therefore when they come back in, you've got 2 days to get them ready, and then they've got to play. And that's very difficult, and I know the Premier League are looking at ideas on if they're well, they can come in and train in a pod or on their own to try and keep some kind of fitness level. Very difficult for these players, even after that spell of coming out with a COVID situation. So, we've got a mixture of situations and circumstances that's led to games being off. Obviously, we had the snow game as well, which was no one's fault. And then all of a sudden, you've got these games to play, but that's the reality. We haven't got the players to fulfil the task. So therefore, at least when then games are put back in, hopefully, if all goes well and the wellness of the country, not just football, improves, then hopefully we can get them games played and we'll be in a better, stronger situation to be competitive, as I spoke about.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dan, Sky Sports Digital. No? Adam Cottier, PLP.
Hey Sean.
Hiya.
Sean, how disappointed were you to see Chris Wood leave the club?
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't a perfect scenario when you lose a player who's done very well for us and for himself as well. A good player, bit quieter this season, but generally you look at his record for us, you look at what he's done, what he's achieved as an individual, added into the team. It's happened before, we've been down this road before, no one wants it, but we've, down the years, Andre Gray and Sam Vokes and Danny Ings and Charlie Austin, these are the challenges that have often been there, and I think we've got a strong group. I think now it's that group mentality is, going to be important going forwards. Possible view of the market as well, quite obviously. So we'll see what changes. But no, he's a good player, Woody, and obviously he's done very well for us, and we wish him well.
Do you think recruitment this month is now an absolute necessity if you are to stay in the Premier League?
The recruitment's still the reality. It's just what it is. It's an ongoing situation. We've shown during the summer window that we wanted to be productive. We still got players out and brought some money in, but then still spent some. The challenge is finding the right players. You can recruit whoever you want, but they have to be right. There's no point in recruiting for the sake of it. We've still got a very good group here when obviously the COVID situation, we're fully fit. I still believe in the players we've got here, and players that have delivered before Chris Wood, players that have delivered after Chris Wood. They'll have to, of course, that's the challenge. It has happened before when we lost key players. We've had to galvanise, we've had to reform the group and the mentality and remind ourselves of the good players that we've got in the building.
Are you spreading your net far and wide in the search for new players?
Yeah, I think we've shown that with a different kind of viewpoint from the summer, with bringing Maxwell in particular, a different avenue or a more open-minded view of a different avenue to go down than probably the previous board, and trying to maybe stretch our thinking and apply ourselves to different ways of looking at the market. I think we're still doing that. The ongoing sort of meetings we're having, the ongoing Zoom meetings at times when we've needed to, to try and align the next good players that we can bring in. But it's an ongoing situation. It's not just stop, stand still and do, look at it purely for the window. It's just an ongoing challenge that we have, like most clubs.
And if you do face Watford, what are your thoughts on the way they've progressed under Claudio Ranieri? And how vital is it that you win this match, given that you'll be 6 points adrift if you lose?
Yeah, look, we've heard all these vital games before. I've been in the game long enough to know that every game looks like a vital game. The fact is, you want to win as many games as you can. The league's only interested in the end of the season. It's not interested in every game as it comes. Of course, there's important games, but everyone is. We're in the situation we're in. We've been unfortunate with all these COVID games called off and some very important games for different reasons, different timing of the games, etc., etc. The challenge is right there in front of us. It's something that we've seen before, something that we're going to have to take on, different lately because of the COVID situation and games being called off. But we have seen these situations before in my time at Burnley when the challenge is right in front of your eyes.
Thanks, Sean. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Dan Jewell, BBC Radio Lecture.
Afternoon.
Beardy.
How hard is it, Sean, to see the Premier League kind of unfolding around you and you can only sit at home and watch? From your own point of view, having self-isolating, but also because you played 2 Premier League games since the 12th of December.
Yeah, look, it's not perfect, that's for sure. You want the players that you've got to be sharp. You want them to be getting regular game time to make sure that they're fit and well and ready. You add in the injuries and the COVID and it gets difficult, but it's an ongoing challenge, not just for us. There's varying teams have had moments of it. We just fell in a really unfortunate spell when COVID mixed with injury has really affected us against the fact we've got a small squad anyway. Look, it's the reality of the moment. We can all question it and make reasons and wonder, but at the end of the day, it will carry on. So we will be getting prepared for the game tomorrow, unless told otherwise. We will then be prepping for the next game and just hoping that people are coming out of COVID, hoping their injuries are settling down, hoping we can find a fitness and a way moving forwards where these effects don't knock us again.
Ian Warren said that he expected you to be climbing the walls when you had to stay at home. How was it? How did you handle it?
Yeah, look, it's not ideal. I went to my old house in Northampton and sort of spent time there away from the family, so that's not ideal. You are literally isolating. It's a reality. It's not to me. Has to do it. I'm very fortunate. I've got a garden. I've got a bit of, a nice, decent sort of property where I can at least relax. It's not easy, but there's people who are way harder off than me and way worse off than me. I feel for them when they're isolating. If you're in a flat or something, you're on your own there. It's tough, but lots of people on phone calls, lots of FaceTime, trying to keep my eye with the football, sport on TV, all the usual stuff, trying to potter around the house, do jobs and whatever you do. Bit of cooking, I don't mind throwing my hand to a bit of cooking, so that filled a couple of hours. The odd glass of red wine as well.
Just with the current situation, not just within your squad, but obviously that's pertinent because we're trying to talk about a game that we don't know whether it's going to happen tomorrow or not. How much is it about active current COVID cases and people having to self-isolate, and how much is it the stuff around COVID, getting players back up to speed and them having to be separate, and how much is just independently injuries?
Yeah, it's a mixture of all of that. In our case at the minute, you've got some double bubble situations where Johan's got COVID and injured. You've got other COVID situations where, as you rightly said, the Premier League rule, You need 2 clear days of proper training before you go into a game. So obviously we've got situations where players might have 1 day, and that's no use when they've had 9 days or 8 days or 7, depending on their testing, of doing nothing or very little because they're not allowed. And then you get the true COVID case when you're just in isolation. That we've got a mixture of what's going on, and it's very difficult, and it stretches you to the limit, which Wales has gone below the limit, quite obviously. So varying, and then of course staff as well. Myself, head of medical, Ali Beattie, Steve Stone, we've all been down as well. So you get these mixture of circumstances where it just gets really, really tough.
Do these things need to be communicated more clearly? Because we've seen a few where it's been, a couple of positive cases has been what's been quoted, and people have been up in arms about how do you call a game off for only a couple of cases. Is there more to it? You explained it a little bit there. Is there more to it than simply a headline number?
Yeah, because the idea is that what kind of isolation? So at the minute it's true isolation. Well, if it's true isolation, how can you keep fit? How can you do the demands of a Premier League footballer? The irony or the twist in the tale, we all talk about the stats and facts in the Premier League and how high it is now and the high-speed running, the pressing and all of that. And yet at the other side, we go, oh, well, it's okay. They haven't done anything for a week, but then we'll give them 2 days training. They can play in the Premier League. So how do you define what's right and wrong about that situation? Very tricky, but they do need some form of allowance, if you like. So the Premier League have said 2 clear training days and then to play in the team. And that's a big challenge. You're still putting that little bit of doubt in a player. If they haven't done anything, they're not allowed into the training ground. They can only do certain things. True isolation, as you know, means that they're in their house or a version of it, in their garden and stuff like that. So there are some, I think all of us as managers and staffs and players, if they can find a way where they can get players back in, even just into the clubs a bit quicker, therefore they're training a bit more, and therefore then when they do come back, they don't get another knock-on injury and a bit more of true fitness, or as good as you can get before they go into the next game. But it's not easy, like I say. The rules are there for the main government rules and then the Premier League rules. Not easy to add all these things, but there is a story behind the story when you just see that number. There's often a story behind that of why players are not quite ready, and sometimes it is whether... we've got players who have tested positive like myself for extra days on top, and when you get the PCR count, if it's the wrong level, then you're still contagious. So therefore they're not allowed in. And then you go, well, there's nothing wrong with them, but they're not allowed in. So these are all the delicate side of the COVID situation and how to get through it. And the Premier League are trying to give us the best leeway to get these games on. We all want them on, I can assure. We don't want to be 4 games and 3 and 4 games behind everyone else. Trust me, but that's the way it is at the moment.
As far as the sort of January transfer window side of things is concerned, you've talked about Chris Wood. The money that's come in for him, are you able to reinvest that? Have you been told that by the owners?
Ongoing conversations on the finance of the club. That's an ongoing thing. It always has been at Burnley.
I guess, though, it's money that perhaps you weren't expecting.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? We didn't want to lose Woody. There's no 2 ways about that. But on the other hand, a lot of, comments around it. There's a lot of money for that player, etc., etc. Money doesn't solve everything. It gives you a better option in football, usually about recruitment, but you've still got to get the right ones. You've still got to get the right players. And January is still a tough window. So, these are all things that have happened. They're the realities. It's done now, so now we've got to move forward.
James Tarkowski's the next name being linked, and he's been linked for some time, of course, because of his contract situation. Has anything changed with regards to him since last we spoke?
No, it's just, a lot of these conversations have been ongoing, between the ownership group here, the agents, the players. It's not an easy situation in football when you're dealing with players' contracts. It never was, but it certainly isn't at the moment.
And I just wanted to ask you about Ben Mee, who's brought up 10 years as a permanent Burnley player this week. He quite rightly getting a lot of plaudits for his service to the club. To have the impact that he's had over this amount of time, how do you sum up this decade that he's had? Obviously, you've been there for a lot of that time with him.
Yeah, he was just before me. I think there's him and I think Kevin Long as well, who's still here. And, they've seen the change in themselves, the club, the running of the club, how it is, the level. And he's played his part in that without a doubt, and been an excellent professional. That's quite obvious, captain the club. But matured from a left back at the time when I first came in, pretty youngish sort of left back earning his spurs, matured into a very, very good Premier League player. There's no 2 ways about that. And as you said, he deserves any plaudits that he gets, and all of them, because nowadays to be at a club for 10 years is often not the case. And to be such a good servant for that period, and virtually, a few spades, not many I don't think, when he wasn't in the side. I think he's more or less played in all the different sides, left back, centre half, etc. And through all the ups and downs and the challenges and the good stuff that's happened to him and to us. So, no, fair play to Ben. He's a fantastic professional.
And he's used a bit of the spotlight that he's got on social media to kind of showcase some of the people who work at the club and who've been there for a long time, ground staff and people in the offices and stuff. Just how important is that there's a connection between the players and the people that are actually there day in, day out doing the work that people don't see?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's been some changes. There's some good people who are not here, but they've still been very good people and good servants to the club. There are some changes, but within that, there's still people who have been here a long time doing their work, working very diligently, working very hard for the club. I've spoken about it many times. As a manager, you take the good and the bad stuff, but there's a lot of work from loads of other people around this place, and I think fair play to Ben if he's recognising that, and just showing a bit of respect to the fact that it is, of course, football clubs revolve around the team and the pitch and how that works, but there's a lot of work goes on from a lot of people in a football club behind the scenes. So fair play to him for respecting that.
And just lastly, is it that kind of team behind the team that gives you a constant reminder of how important it is to be in the Premier League and what it means to them?
Yeah, I think, look, no one underestimates the power of the Premier League. We certainly don't. But the knock-on effect of the jobs created, the new jobs here, the amount of people employed by Burnley Football Club, all the stories kind of behind the story of just being in the Premier League. I mean, there's many stories here. The community department's a massive story here. Went from one person when I got here to 100 people working in the community. I mean, they're huge steps forward in the club, not just on the pitch, but around the club and all the people that have helped to galvanise these things, help put them in place. So a lot of work done by many.